Hello. Okay, let me zoom in a little bit more. So today we are going to do kind of what we've been doing, but we're going to do this where we end up with variables on both sides and then have to get to solving. So here we go. Let's talk about what are our steps to solve. Okay. Simplify each side. You have to simplify each half first. Okay. Which means you may be distributing or combining. And it's always if it's needed. We still use the inverse operations to move variables to one side. So you have to do the opposite to hop over the wall. Do opposite to hop over wall. Okay. Then we solve and we check just like we normally have. All right, the best way to do this is just to work examples. I'm going to start off with the easy ones and then go through and work some of the more difficult ones with you and leave most of these easier ones for you to go back and do. Okay, because they can get to have a lot of steps to them. All right, so here we go. We've got our equation wall. We look at each half. If I look at this half, it's just a variable term and a constant term. Okay. Zoom back in. This might make it a little bit better. And then if I look at the second half, the right-hand side, okay, there is just a variable term. I don't know if that makes any difference. And a constant. I think it does. Okay. Give me just a second. I'm going to turn the lights off. I think it makes a difference in the way the screen is. It's dark, but maybe it'll make it focus better. Seems a little bit clearer. Okay, so my goal, I like to always put the variables on the left. You do not have to, but that's the way I like to solve it. It's your choice. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this 2x and I'm going to move it to the left. Now, it's the same thought process as if I were moving the 35. I want to make it equal 0. So what do I have to do to get 2x back to 0? I do the opposite. It's a positive right now, so I'm going to do a negative 2x. And when I add those two together, it equals 0. We have to keep it balanced. So what I do on one side of the equation, I have to do on the other. So I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides and bring everything else down. So now I'm going to end up with, follow my integer rules, always follow the integer rules, 8x minus 2x, that gives me 6x plus 17 equals 35. Now, this looks like a problem we've been doing. Should not be any different, okay? So now I'm going to continue my equation wall. I'm adding 17, so I'm going to subtract 17 from both sides. This zeroes out, bring down my 6x, and I have 6x equals 35 minus 17. That's 18. Got to borrow. Yep. Okay. So now continue. 6 times x. So I'm going to divide by 6 on both sides, and I get x equals 3. Now we need to check. And to check, we plug back into the original. So I'm going to have 8 times 3 plus 17 equals 2 times 3 plus 35. This is where it comes into important, where we have to end up with a true statement. We want each side of the equals to be the same. So I'm going to do 8 times 3, that's 24 plus 17 equals 6 plus 35. So 24 plus 17, that's going to give me 11. Oh, drawing a blank here. 24, 17, 1, 41. There we go. So I have 41, 6 plus 35. That's 41 as well. This is true, so therefore this is my correct answer. Okay. Moving right along. Okay. This is an instance of I may not be able to move it to the left. And the reason I'm not going to be able to move it to the left is because I don't have a constant and a variable on both sides. I only have a variable on this side. So that means my ultimate goal is to get all letters on one side and numbers on other. Your goal is to get all the variables on one side and all the constants on the other. That means I'm going to need to move the 6a to the right. All right. I want to make 6a equal 0. And in order to do that, that's a positive 6a, so I'm going to subtract 6a from both sides. And this now equals 0. Bring it down, and I have 40 equals. I have to follow my integer rules. They're doing battle, so I end up with a negative because the negatives are winning. So I'm doing 6 minus 2, which gives me 4a. And now I finish out the problem. It's negative 4 times a, my equation wall. So I'm going to divide by negative 4 to both sides. And this cancels, and I end up with negative 10 equals a. And now we check by plugging it back in. So I have 6 times negative 10 plus 40, parentheses there, equals 2 times negative 10. So I simplify. So I end up with negative 60 plus 40 equals negative 20. So that's going to give me negative 20 equals negative 20. This is true. So therefore, this is my correct answer. All right, we're working more of these, so just bear with me. If you need to go back and watch these videos, this portion of the video again, then you do what you need to do. All right, moving on. Because these other examples are going to still include all of these steps. All right, so we're going to jump up to number 9. Again, I'm looking at each half. Do I need to simplify? If I look at the left-hand side of my equation, I have things I can simplify. I've got like terms, so I've got to combine my like terms first. If I look at the right-hand side, there's not anything to simplify at this time, but I could if there were something. All right, here we go. So let's work. So I'm going to follow my integer rules. There's a positive and a negative, so they're doing battle, and that battle is going to be won by the negatives, which means I subtract. So I'm doing 5 minus 3, so that's going to give me negative 2x minus 16 equals negative 23 minus 9x. And now I get my variables all on the same side. I like to move them to the left, so I'm going to take this negative 9x and I am moving it over here. Again, it's the equation wall, so I have to do the opposite. That's a subtracting 9x, so I'm going to add 9x, or I think of that as a negative 9x. And what do I have to do to negative 9x to get to 0? Add positive. So we have a positive 9x. So I'm going to add 9x to both sides, and I bring everything else down. They're doing battle. The positives are winning. So this is a 7x minus 16 equals negative 23. And now I'm at the problem just like we've been doing. So my equation wall, subtracting 16, so I'm going to add 16 to both sides. And remember, you have to show these steps. So we have 7x, this zeros, and equals, okay, these are doing battle. The negatives are winning. So now I can subtract and not forget about my signs. So I have to borrow. 13 minus 6 is 7. So I get a negative 7. Let me write that to where it looks a little bit more legible. And now I continue to solve. 7 times x, that means I need to divide by 7. 7's cancel, and I have x equals negative 1. Moving right along. Number 11. When I'm looking here, okay, I'll look at each half. If I look, I can simplify on this half because they are both a terms. Goodness gracious, there, that's better. They're both a terms on this half. And now I look at the right-hand side. And if I do that, I see again, also my hand just makes this worse. Okay. I have A's on this half. So I cannot combine them all together. I do each half. I've got my wall there that separates it. So I have 9a minus 7a. That's going to give me 2a equals. And then I do the 3a plus 2a. That gives me 5a minus 33. And now we continue to solve, but I've got a's on both sides. I want letters on one side, numbers on the other. So I'm going to take this 5a and I need to move it to the left. It's a positive 5a, so that means I'm going to subtract 5a from both sides so that this zeroes out. And now follow my integer rules. The negatives are winning. 5 minus 2 is 3, so I have 3a equals negative 33. And now I follow my solving rules. Negative 3 times a gives me negative 3. Divide by negative 3 to cancel. And I have a equals 11. Okay, continuing right along. Number 13, we're doing more on the back here because these have more steps to them, and I want to make sure that you have exposure to all the different possibilities that you might have to do. For number 13, we're pulling in distributive property. Okay, so here we go. I'm distributing the 4 first. We have to distribute first. So I have 4k, 4 times, remember, this becomes plus a negative, so it's 4 times negative 2, so that's going to give me a negative 8 equals, distribute the 2, so I have 2k, that's a negative 9, 2 times negative 9, so we get plus negative 9. And now I'm back like a problem like we had earlier. I want all my variables on one side. I like to move them to the left unless I have to move them to the other way. My equation wall, I have to do the opposite. I want to make this equal 0, so that's a positive 2k. So I'm going to subtract or add a negative 2k to both sides. And when I do that, this equals 0. 4k plus negative 2k, or 4k minus 2k gives me 2k. And remember, I could write this as minus 8 plus a negative is the same as minus that number equals negative 9. Continuing to solve, I'm going to add 8 to both sides. Zero this out, bring down the 2k, and I have 2k equals negative 1. Oh, it helps if I make sure I write the right number. Ooh, Miss Wilson made a boo-boo. I wrote it and I drew it. I did what y'all do all the time. I forgot to actually do 2 times negative 9. This is supposed to be 18, negative 18. So right here, and my clue was I was getting a fraction answer, which was a little off. So I went back and checked my work. It's not uncommon to get a fraction answer, but not when we're first learning something. So now I end up with this being, this is a negative 10. So now I finish my equation. 2 times k, divide by 2 on both sides, and I get k equals negative 5. Okay, and our last example, the one with the fraction. Here we go. First thing we do is we distribute. So I'm going to take this negative 1/2 and make sure we multiply it to everything inside. Now remember, when you multiply by 1/2, multiply by 1/2 is same as divide by 2, which is nice because it makes things a little bit easier. So if I'm doing this, I'm doing a negative 1/2 times 12v. That means I'm taking 12 and dividing by 2. So that's going to give me a negative 6v. When I'm doing this, I've got a negative. Remember, this is a plus, a minus. That's a negative times a negative. So that's going to give me a positive. Half of 20 is 10, a positive 10. Then we bring everything else down. There's not anything to simplify over here, so I just bring it down. Plus 4 equals negative 12 minus 8v. And now I combine my like terms, which happen to be just the constants on the left. So we now have negative 6v plus 14 equals negative 12 minus 8v. And I want to move my variable term to the left, my equation wall. So therefore, that's a negative 8v. So I'm going to add 8v, or I'm subtracting 8v. So I'm going to add 8v to both sides. And this equals 0. Bring everything else down. This is doing battle. Positives are winning. So I get 2v plus 14 equals negative 12. And we continue to solve my equation. So I'm adding 14. So I subtract 14. And remember to show these steps. You have to show this step right here. Some of you are forgetting that. Bring everything else down. So I have 2v equals negative 26 because they're doing teamwork. So they stay on the negative side and I add them together. And now it's continuing my solving. It's 2 times v. So I divide by 2 on both sides and I get v equals negative 13 as my answer. For today, you're going through and you're finishing the notes. Make sure that you check them and you can begin working on the classwork homework. Have a great day.